Do you have two dogs? Do your two dogs pull like crazy on a leash? Maybe you have one dog that pulls as if you had two dogs. Well, this video is for you. I'm gonna be teaching you exactly how you bring two dogs from crazy maniacs pulling, no engagement on a leash, to calm, content on a leash. If you wanna see how you do it, stick around. So when you have two dogs and they are going crazy on a leash, they feed off each other's energy and it is just quite impossible to manage. So the first step to fixing our dogs from pulling on a leash is actually by just training one dog at a time at first. Teach each dog how to loose leash walk, and then you can hop in with both dogs and reteach it. But it's really important that you understand that when you are teaching your dog to heel, the more distractions you add, the harder it's gonna be. If we're in our living room, we could probably very easily teach our dog to loose leash walk. If we go outside, there's gonna be a lot more distractions. It's gonna be a lot harder. Adding a second dog into the equation is a distraction in and of itself, and it is a relatively high distraction. And so we're gonna start off with just one dog. I have a ton of videos on YouTube on loose leash walking, but I'll quickly run through how we are gonna teach Chief how to loose leash walk. So the first thing that we're doing here is we are going live with a prong collar. We are putting Chief on a Herm Springer 2.25 prong collar. And I will tell you, he's never had one of these on before, at least not to my knowledge. And when he feels the first pressure, it's gonna be something he's not used to. And all we wanna do is teach him, you stay calm, great things happen, right? You pay attention to me, great things happen. And the prong collar allows us to just distribute that pressure a lot more concentrated to get his attention and bring him back. So whenever we introduce a dog to a prong collar, we don't just want to slap the prong collar on and just expect them to understand things. Dogs have this thing called opposition reflex. So do us humans. And I'll give you an example. If I were to stand right behind you and just push you forward, you have to kind of lean against me so you don't fly forward. What I want Chief here to do is I want him to go with the pressure. Dogs don't come like this out of the factory, but to teach it, we're just gonna build a little bit of engagement using a little bit of pressure to guide him in. We just did it once as I was talking. I was running my mouth a little bit, and I mean, he's already walking a lot better because he's starting to understand he can't pull, but so here's what I'm doing. I'm using pressure. He's trying to pee, it's okay. Yes, good boy. I'm using pressure, he turns the pressure off, he comes back to me. We praise and reward that. We don't usually need to use treats or food because using treats or food is kind of bribery, right? We don't want to build, yes, a transactional relationship. But right there, I'm using just a small amount of pressure, showing him you feel this pressure. The only way out, yes, is for you to come back to me. That is the only way the pressure turns off. If you don't do this to start, your dog is going to be running around in circles. They have no idea how to turn this pressure off. It's going to be a mindless exercise. It's not going to teach your dog anything. So to start, you always want to just teach. Yes, good boy, good. The opposition reflex. And for those of you that say that prong collars are going to hurt and destroy your dog, look how happy Chief is here, right? We have him on a prong collar. This is the introduction. This is probably the hardest part, and he is happy as can be. Yes, good boy. And here we're just taking a balanced approach to teach him. Prong collar pressure means you come back to me. Now that he understands it, let's test to see if he does understand it. Yes, good boy. I want him to come all the way back to me, not just turn the pressure off, but he's getting there. Now that we've taught him that. Yes, good. What we're gonna do is we are gonna start just building some engagement. I'm gonna do some sudden U-turns, some sudden stops, some sporadic walking. That's gonna be the last part, but I'm gonna mix in some sudden U-turns and sudden stops. You can do them one or the other, or you can bring them together. Yes, good boy. And just kind of walk a little crazy, right? I'm gonna stop suddenly. He's allowed to be anywhere within this 4 feet. If he is at the end of this 4 feet, he's doing something wrong. We are using proper leash pressure. Proper leash pressure means, yes, the leash is always slack unless we're giving him a pop. Right? The only time we communicate with him or use any leash pressure is when we a little pop. It's oftentimes in the wrist, yes. And with a lot of dogs with a prong collar, doesn't need to be very much. We don't want to overcorrect. But to build engagement, I just want Chief here to understand, yes, I might turn around. I might stop on a dime and turn the other way. And if he's not paying attention to me, it's going to be slightly uncomfortable, ever so slightly uncomfortable. And then when he catches up to me and he's walking with me and with a loose leash, I'm going to praise and encourage this behavior. Another thing, because Chief here is doing it, is if your dog itches constantly, you can let them itch a little bit, but we don't want a dog to get in the habit of just stopping what they're doing and itching. It's a fine line that we need to ride, but you know, you don't want to just let your dog itch for 20 seconds every 5, you know, every minute, because, you know, that's how your dog, that's what's going to turn into your dog's outlet instead of turning off the pressure like this. Yes, good, no. And another quick little tip, where I'm using different pressure amounts. Right there, Chief, you saw a little patch in the grass that smelled really nice. He went to go, probably trying to pee on it. I used a little bit more pressure to get his attention. Yes, good boy. I'm always adjusting the pressure levels on exactly what we're doing and, you know, where we need to be just to get his attention. Yes, good. He caught me there, so I'm gonna praise him for that one. Do some sudden stops. With the sudden stops, a little trick for that is, if your dog gets to the end of the leash, you stop right before it's tight, a little pop. Yes, good boy. I'm gonna play that back in slow-mo for you. I stopped with a loose leash. He got to the end of the leash, but right before he got to the end of the leash, I gave him the pop. I'm not giving him the pop. We can hop back to me. I'm not giving him the pop once the leash is tight. If the leash is tight, we have no control. And so something really important is we always give a pop from a slack leash to a loose leash. Not giving a pop and then pull. It's always slack. Always, always, always. Got a runner by. Let's see if, yeah, good boy, Chief. But his walking is already 10 times better. The last little step, again, I have a ton of videos on YouTube if you want a little bit more of an in-depth dive into that. But sorry to interrupt your video. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about these bad boys, Impact Dog Crates. I train a ton of dogs and I have a ton of dogs in crates. A crate should be your dog's safe space, and Impact Crates does that. They are made of high-grade aluminum, made in America. They are really easy to move around. Your crate is essentially your dog's home, so why not go a little bit above and beyond and get your dog a very nice home? At checkout, use code Ethan10 or use the link in the description below to get your Impact Crate today. Now back to your video. Sporadic walking. We're gonna stop suddenly. We're gonna change directions. We're gonna walk over here. Might walk over here. Yes, good. Might go this way. You know, who knows where we're going? But when he's paying attention to me, great things are happening. When he's not, great things are not happening. I'm using sudden U-turns, sudden stops, changing speed, changing direction, right before he gets to the end of the leash. Yes. Using pressure, giving him an outlet. Nope. Yes, good boy. So, once we teach our dog loose leash walking, it's probably gonna take a couple walks, maybe 2 or 3 walks to really reinforce it, adding distractions slowly when your dog gets it, yes. If it's taking you longer than 2, 3, 4 sessions, you're probably doing something wrong. Very, 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 very few dogs take longer than a couple sessions to teach loose leash walking. But we'll do it with Chief. We'll also do it with Admiral. And once we are done with that, we're gonna bring both dogs together and do the same thing, but that's where it really gets tricky. So now let's get into what you guys really came here for, and that is not walking one dog, but 2 dogs at the same time. It is the most challenging part, but it's what you came here for, so see you there. So the next step that you're gonna wanna try out, and this is optional, but get a dog that you know is good on a leash. It could be a neighbor, it could be a friend, a family member, but having a dog that is already decently behaved on a leash, that is obedient, is a great middle tier to work with before you throw 2 crazier dogs on a leash and expect them to heel it all. Admiral here knows to walk with a loose leash when it's just him and I, but he also doesn't really know when there's another dog. And so that middle step is gonna be really important and is gonna make training a lot easier when you throw the 2 crazier dogs into the mix and try to expect them to loose leash walk or heel with you. So we have Kona here. What I'm gonna have Kona do is, again, right, this is completely optional. Most dogs probably can't do what Kona can do, so you know, use what you can to just add distractions with another dog. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have Kona kind of be a little bit of a guinea pig to add distractions for Admiral's training, and I'm gonna do this with both dogs separately. Kona, sit. Good. What I'm gonna do is I have Kona right there, and I'm gonna use her as a little bit of a, again, a guinea pig. Kona, speak. Good. Speak. Yes. No. Sit. Yes. Good. Kona, speak. Yes. Good. You can see that that gets Admiral pretty excited. And that's something that a dog barking, if you have 2 dogs, there are reactive dogs around. And if you can handle them when it's all calm, but the second a reactive dog comes along, you can't handle them, not really very useful, right? You want to be able to communicate with your dogs when a lot is going on. Kona, speak. No, speak. Yes, good. Kona, heel. And I'm gonna call Kona in and out of a heel. To see the second Kona gets in a heel, Admiral here gets a little bit excited. And so this is something that use another dog that is well behaved, at least to an extent, on a leash, to just continue to add distractions and work on training. And practice this a couple times. It'll be a great intermediate step between the last step and the next step. So this is the moment you guys have been waiting for, actually training two dogs at the same time, the two dogs that were pulling like crazy. We just got outside, and if you set everything up the right way, this step shouldn't be very difficult. This step should actually probably be one of the easiest steps. If you haven't set it up right, and you haven't done enough training with each dog individually, you're gonna struggle and it's gonna take longer. So if you find yourself struggling and your dogs are just not getting it, take a step back and just go back to the basics of working with one dog and build up distractions more and more. But if you've done it right, your dog should be, you walk outside, they should be for the most part engaged. We do have to set the tone for our walk, and that starts with proper thresholds when we're going out the door. If your dogs are pulling you out the door, you're gonna struggle the entirety of the walk. Your dogs need to not pull at all, and we set the tone for that the second we walk out the door. The most difficult part of this is managing two leashes and managing two corrections or just one correction. Proper leash pressure with two leashes is a lot harder than proper leash pressure with one leash. And so what I'm doing for the majority of the walk is I'm holding about 2 feet, about 18 inches, somewhere around there of slack for both dogs, same exact amount. If you have the right pressure of the right leash pressure, and you give your dog a proper pop, if one dog gets ahead, you can correct just that one dog without correcting the dog that is walking. Here, there you go, here's a great example. So Chief here started walking ahead a little bit. Admiral was still with me. I gave a pop. Admiral didn't get any pressure, but Chief did. And so that just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of management, and it is difficult. It is really difficult, and it takes a little bit of time. We're gonna practice some U-turns too. That gets even harder when we're practicing U-turns. But as you can see, I'm kind of always holding the leash with my left hand, where I can always just grab one leash, or I can kind of guide them however I want and manipulate the two leashes. And that's something that, again, it's gonna take time to really learn and perfect, but once you do it, it's gonna be really, really easy. And you can see they're, for the most part, engaged. They might not be doing as good as they were when it was just one dog, but again, right, we're kind of retraining this again. I'm doing some U-turns. Once they start getting this, I'll start setting them up a little bit harder, but they are kind of handling themselves really, really well, where Admiral is on the inside, Chief is on the outside. Chief, when I do a U-turn, has to walk all the way around Admiral. He has a lot more travel, right? He has a lot more direction to go, but he's killing it. That's okay if he gets a little further out, and that's a situation where, again, I will give him a little more slack on the U-turns. Want to work on sudden stops where they are engaged with me? Nope. Yes. That was a little situation where Chief was smelling Admiral there, and not that they're not allowed to smell each other, but we're walking. This is not a time to play. That was kind of the start to a little bit of play. And so I dropped Admiral's leash and I gave Chief just the smallest bit of leash pressure. Managing the leash is going to be the hardest part in this step, but if you've set everything else up the right way, your dog should be walking like this for the most part. And again, right, I always talk about generalization, generalizing commands, obedience, behaviors, whatever we're doing. We have to generalize this. They got this down when there's really no one walking by. There's a dog walking by, that might be a whole different situation. So we have to generalize it. We then have to slowly add distractions in this environment. That could be doing sudden U-turns. Here's a great situation, I'm interrupting myself, where Chief tried to cut on the inside. We are walking how we're walking. Yes, good dogs, good. And we're not changing our formation. We are walking calmly. This is what walk should look like. So here's a great situation where we're adding distractions. That's just a girl riding by on her bike. And if your dogs can't handle something like that, your dogs aren't going to be able to handle a dog walking by. Your dogs aren't going to be able to handle more distractions. This is why we have to slowly add distractions and go at our dog's pace. If they couldn't handle that, I'm not going to throw them next to a dog immediately. I'm going to perfect situations like that and build up to it. So It's all a little bit of generalization, but once you get to this point, you are steering clear on your way to perfectly leash-mannered dogs. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button. I'd love to know any comments, any feedback you have, and how you're doing with this with your 2 dogs. Hit the subscribe button. We'll see you in the next one.